Hello, we are going to go over a little bit how to do the first of your worksheets for this distance time. It's going to be A1R1, so go ahead and get that out. I kind of prefer you to do the problems or try to do the problems before watching this video, but if you get stuck, I have 6 problems here that I'm going to help you with. Okay, so here we are, and apparently I got a little guy that doesn't want to go away. All right, there he goes, disappeared. Okay, so here we are. This is A1R1. I'm going to start with number 4, and so we will look at what we need to do. Number 4 is just a 2-step equation, and part of what I'm going over is my expectations on what I want to see as far as work goes. Okay, if you remember, the first step is going to be the add subtract step. So I need to get whatever is by the x to go away. So this would be at minus 10. Subtract 10 from both sides. And then we're going to end up with 5 equals x divided by 4. Okay, that's also a fraction, but just keep it x divided by 4 and you'll be fine. Okay, and now we just do one more step here. And we're going to just multiply both sides by 4. And we're going to get 20 equals x. And that is ugly, so we're going to flip it around and make x equals 20. And we are done. Okay. Let me make sure this is going to be in focus. Let's see if I gotta wait till it's autofocus. There we go. I think that's going to be cleaner. Okay, let's move on to number 8. It's a little more complicated. This is a multi-step equation, and so I'm going to start here with the distributive property. And so I'm going to go ahead and underline this. I'm going to distribute this, not this. I'm going to distribute the negative 6 because in between the 6 and the parentheses there is nothing. That means multiplication. Here, in between the parentheses and the 1, is a minus. So that means minus. So we don't do that in the distributive property. So distributive property, I'm just going to go bam and there. And so then I'm going to go ahead and write that below it. And we will write it as a negative 6 times 1 is negative 6. Negative 6 times negative 2 is going to be a positive 12. And I just write this down as is. So that's the distributive property. Now we need to combine like terms. Our like terms are going to be, well, we got constant terms and variable terms. And so it looks like this and this are like terms. And of course, when we talk about combining like terms, we're only going to combine on the same side of the equal sign. Okay? This is both simplification, well, both steps are to simplify, and so we are trying to make our problem easier before we start to solve. Okay, so I'm going to simplify that up, rewrite it, 12m minus or plus a negative, whatever you want to do, that's 7. That's going to equal 89. We're going to do the add step, plus 7, so we have 12m equals 96, and we're going to divide both sides by 12, and when you do that correctly, just stick at the computer or your calculator or however you want to do it here, but no matter what, you should end up with 8. Alright, there we go with those two. I'm going to let you do the rest of that set on your own. We're going to move on down to the proportions. This would solve each equation. Now we're going to move down to the proportions. And so we'll see if I can get this guy to move. All right, that looks like we got plenty of space to work with. Just remember how to do proportions. We basically are dealing with 2 fractions. A proportion, if you remember, is 2 ratios comparing 2 equal ratios. And so I'm going to go ahead and do this and see if you remember what this is called when someone does that. What am I doing? I am cross multiplying. Okay, so I'm going to do 9 times x. I always like to put the x on the left just because it is easier. And it means the answer will look prettier. And then 10 times 2, we got a 20. Okay, so I'm going to divide both by 9, by 9. And it is not going to work out to a nice pretty number, so you're going to want to put it in your calculator. 20 divided by 9, and we're going to round to 2 decimal places. And so that is going to end up being 2.22, and that is rounded. Okay, so there we go. Let's move on to the harder problem. This one, this proportion. So we're going to cross multiply again, but I'm going to do something before I cross multiply. I'm going to protect this. I'm going to put a little parentheses around this binomial. Okay, if you remember binomials from Algebra 1, we want to protect this because when we cross multiply, we need to use the distributive property. So that would be 4 times x plus 1 equals, well, then that's 6 times 9. That's going to be a 54. Okay. And there are more than one way to do this. I'm just going to do it this way. As long as you're using legal algebra, then I don't mind, but show your work. All right, I just did the distribute property right there. And now I'm going to subtract 4, and I get 4x equals 50. And divide by 4, and we are going to go ahead and get a fraction here, and it is going to be x equals 12.5. I do not have to round because it just works out. So if you don't have to round, you can leave it 1 decimal, but we're going to round other proportions to 2 decimal places. All right, now we're going to move on to the last section I'm helping with on this particular worksheet. And so I'm going to scoot. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and write you down a formula here that you're going to need. If you remember, slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's the slope formula that you did in Algebra 1. You're going to need to do it again. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and put in these numbers into this formula. Okay, and again, we're on this worksheet, so you should have that in front of you. See these numbers. Let's see if I put them in right. So I'm doing number 19. So let's see here. y2, that's the y from the second point, is -3. Minus y1. y1 is 0. And I'm going to put a line over that. And then we have x2 minus x1. So minus x1. It is a negative. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. If I got minus a negative, that's the same thing as plus a positive. Okay. So -3 minus 0 is -3. 17 plus 9 is going to be a 26. And I'm not going to, I'm going to simplify my fraction in, simplify my fraction, but I'm not going to change it from a improper fraction. This one is proper, but I'm not going to change it to a decimal. And so I'm just going to leave it that way. So in this case, my slope is -3 over 26. Okay. So hopefully you remember how to do that. I'll let you do the rest on your own. And then we're going to do the slightly harder version of slope. And that is 3. So I'm going to do the exact same thing here. I'm going to use the same formula. And I'm just going to fill in the blanks. So we got a y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Well, x1 is missing, so I just put an x. And that's going to equal, well, it's going to equal the slope. Okay. So I'm going to solve this like a proportion. First thing I'm going to do is clean it up. I think I can simplify this a little bit. So I'm going to clean it up, rewrite it. So this is going to be a negative 11. 9 minus x, I'm going to protect my binomial, so I'll put a little parentheses, equals negative 11, 5. Okay, and you are allowed to put that negative either with the top or the bottom. Don't do both. All right, so I'm going to do a little cross multiplication. That's what comes next. And I'm probably going to run out of room, so I might have to move the camera again. So this is going to end up being negative 11 times 9 minus x, and this is going to equal negative 55. Okay, and again, there's different ways to do this, but I'm going to work this all the way out, and I'm going to shift it just a little bit. See if we can get it all done. That is not straight. And so this is going to be negative 99 minus a negative, so that's going to be plus 11x equals negative 55. And now we're going to add 99. Add 99. We're going to get 11x equals 44. Okay, we're almost out of paper. So I'm going to divide by 11, and whoops, don't do that. Divide by 11, this is why we use pencil. I'm using pen just so it shows up better. So 44 divided by 11 is going to be x equals 4. And we're done. Number 26, I do want to point out, you don't have to do any work on it. I'm just kind of testing to see if you remember what to do on that problem. Undefined slope is, you can't really do math with it. You can't do an equation, so you're just going to have to try to remember what undefined slope means and see if you can come up with the answer. But your hint is there's absolutely no work. I can just look at the problem and come up with the answer, and so can you once you remember how to do it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and sign off from here. And so go ahead and finish your worksheet, and you'll have another video for tomorrow. Bye-bye.